And welcome to Strength-Based Marketing. I'm so glad you're here because one of the things that I wanted to share with you today is an expert in coaching, business development, mastermind groups, and marketing. We've known each other for a little while now. We've been working together in some different areas, and PaulRoy is an amazing gift to North America. It's really funny that he lives way up there in what I call Halifax. When he first told me how far north and east he was, I thought, man, you could date a Valkyrie. It's just so far out there. But Paul, thank you so much for being on the show, and we're going to get into your story real short.
Thank you very much, Patrick. I'm pleased and happy to be here, to be having a conversation with such an expert like yourself.
Well, thank you so very much. It is not to be a mutual admiration society, but it is an honor, and I'm always excited about that. I love to bring really intelligent, bright, really useful to the business community. Those of you that are business owners, those of you that are experts in your field that are trying to grow your business. I love Paul's guarantee that he'll find you $10,000 in like 24 hours, and it guaranteed. It's $10,000 in 45 minutes with a meeting with him, and it'll be able to. Well, how do you say that, Paul? What's your? I don't want to mess it up.
You know, in any business, there's loose change on the table that, you know, you business owners get so wrapped up in the details and they don't see the simple solutions, and that people have been down this road before you and I, and they've learned those things. And it's and as I love to say, answers don't come out of thin air. They usually come after we ask a question. So I run on that premise that I can't make an assumption what's going on in a client's business until I'm asked some questions. And it's not just about the numbers, Patrick. It's about who they are, what their decision-making processes is. And if I may share, because I ended up in the coaching business quite by mistake, in that because I had been in so many businesses, some of them were successful, some of them had failed, but I never gave up believing in myself, and I never gave up believing that I could help people. And my phone just would start ringing. I was working with a large call center based out of Eastern Canada, you know, as their VP of sales, and my phone's ringing, and somebody says, "Oh, call PaulRoy. You know, he can help you with that. He's had that problem." And so all of a sudden, people are coming to me looking for help and advice, and I'm going, God, this feels pretty good, you know, to be able to help people, to take, you know, to lift some of the weight off their shoulders. And then, of course, we go through this as we do, most people do, is how do I monetize what I love to do? And so that, you know, kind of led me down that journey. But I mean, I had owned businesses. I broke in the town where my grandfather was mayor, that just got mowed down by a shift in market conditions. It wasn't because I wasn't a good business owner. It wasn't because I sat on a stump and held my chin in my hand. No, I acted what I thought was right. And 5,000 of us went out of business in the office products business in 2 years in North America. Well, hello, there was some external forces. But, you know, you carry the weight of that in your shoulders, and you kind of go, kind of that little bird in your shoulder goes, you could have done this, you could have done this. And I go, no, you did the right thing. Hold your head up high. And I moved on and ran a big $12 million company as their general manager, which was losing money. They hired me to turn it around, which I did do in a period of about 8 months. So, you know, that satisfied that you got the chutzpah, Paul, to be able to do this. You can wrestle with the bear. You can help people make good decisions. But it was through, I ended up actually quite by accident. I was in business working with my brother in a yachting business. We were a yacht brokerage firm, which he owned, but I was, let me say, a good part of the revenue stream of that business. And again, through external forces, that business just went sideways. And because of the impact of the Canadian dollar then being, at that time, believe it or not, more valuable than the United States dollars, yes, it did happen. And all my business went south of the border. Well, that's great. And so what happened there was, all of a sudden, I'm selling these boats, and I've got to split the money 4 ways. Myself, my brother, the broker, the listing brokerage in the US, plus the salesperson. And all of a sudden, 10% commission gets split 4 ways. And you sell a $50,000 boat and you make $1,200 and you worked on it for a week or two. And you go, no. So I left the business saying, I haven't worked this hard for this little money in all my life. I got to go. So I ended up out to dinner with my 2 best friends that night. And I said, I told my brother I'm leaving the business today. What are you going to do? Well, I don't know. I've always been able to, I'm a business guy. I'll figure it out. And one of them said to me, he said, well, why don't you come and see me Friday after I dropped him off? I drew the short straw that night. I was a designated driver. So I drove the other 2 home. It's always good to be the designated driver every now and then because you get to learn more and you do less talking. So long story short, I ended up in this guy owned a very successful company. And he looked at me and said, oh, Paul, I've been thinking about this all week. And he slides a contract across the desk at me and he said, I want you to come work for me. Well, no, I'm an independent. No, I want you to come work for me. I won't overmanage you. You're self-motivated and I trust you. That's all I want. I don't want to manage anybody. I want somebody who can run with it. Well, what I thought was going to be a 2-year job ended up being a 7-year, 8-year stint. Took this little regional company to being national. Of course, it's a team effort, but I was the sales engine. So it was through that process that because I enjoyed being with them, but I still wasn't satisfied being involved in the moving parts of the business. And so 3.5 years ago, I dove into being full-time. But in that process of coaching part-time while I had the other role and getting my life coaching certification, it actually gave me a really good toolkit of understanding the personality of the business owner and what drives the decision-making process for the financial success of this company. And that's where I got my start. And I just love helping business owners watch their fears go away. And they talk about the work-life balance. Well, the life balance comes a lot easier when your business is healthy.
It is a lot easier to breathe when you've got the financial side taken care of. And I'm real curious when you think about the services that you offer and the things that you do. I'm curious how you would say that you are creating. I like to believe that you're helping people create success in their life, and I'm curious how you do that.
Well, it all starts with a conversation, and also that I don't like selling. I don't like chasing people. If I can find a way, and that's what brought you and I together, a way to attract people to want to work with me based on my story, my success. But really, people don't buy coaches. They buy an outcome. And who are they going to trust that has the experience and the ability to deliver on the trust and on the outcome? And somebody, when somebody says, well, how much are your coaching service? That question I can't answer. I said, I don't know how big your problem is. In fact, if you have a problem, or whether or not I have the equipment to help you. Odds are that I do, but that's the process that I go to. So, and in today's noisy marketplace, it's hard to stand out. How do we become authentic and trust, how people will trust you? But at the end of the day, We're selling results and outcomes.
Well, I'm curious, what are some of the results that you've been able to help someone create?
It's varied, and I'm glad, Patrick, you asked a question. In that, for example, with a large contact center in North America, who were already at the highest priced in the industry, and they hadn't put a price increase through in 2 years because they were seeing competitive pressures. And here's a $6.5 million company, and they're focused on the number, and they're not focused on what the value is they drive. So, out of a conversation, well, what is it in your business? What's your process with, in that conversation with the owner? How are you different? How could you actually, what took you to charge the fee that you did? Oh, we did this, we do this and do this, and here's our process. And then having, from my experience in the industry, going, they're doing something nobody else does. They empower their staff to make decisions. And if I can carry that example a little further, we've all called the bank, we've all called car rental companies, credit card, and we're on with the agent, which we know is a call center. And then the agent goes, well, pardon me, if you just wait a minute, I have to go get the approval from my supervisor. Do, and the music comes on, and a minute rolls by, and 2 minutes rolls by. Well, guess what? The meter's running for their clients when they're on hold. And all of a sudden, they're actually lower the competitor because of what it took them to deliver the service. So we came to an agreement how we would craft the letter from the CEO of the company to the clients. We hadn't done this in 2 years, and we've absorbed the cost of living index. We've actually absorbed 3% increased in our costs and didn't pass them along. We can't continue to do it. Well, they wrote this letter. They put through a 5% increase, which is, by the way, as you well know, no extra cost to the business, goes straight to the bottom line. The next thing, they had $350,000 in new revenue out of a well-crafted letter when it was based on fear. So that's the bit of the emotional side, Patrick, and the number side. Another growing business that had been to the brink a couple of years ago, and everything, they were mired in the mud. How are we, and again, it took it back to the value proposition. And you're a marketing expert. I mean, we need to know who our customer is and why they would buy from us. And if we don't know that, we have no clue how to price. And, so that's, the pricing is just one piece of it. That's easy for some of us that can see that. But it's all the moving parts behind the price that's important. And that's what I love doing.
Right. Well, one of the things that I've seen you do, and it was fascinating to watch, and a lot of folks that own a business, they've heard the term beat. They know, yes, we all got to find our beat. Yep. And yet a lot of folks kind of lose track of that and the value that they can create and the profit they can make if they adjust a few things. And so, thinking about the people that are kind of your ideal client, is explain the beat and why your ideal clients should actually know the beat, like what the beat. Sorry.
Beat, of course, is a break-even point, and it's and this is what separates. I mean, you're a marketing expert, and and I understand and know marketing, but it's not my favorite part of what I do. But when you embark on to get to the beat, but if I could back it up a little bit and go, when you embark on a marketing program, there is an element of risk. You're going to have an expense to promote it. You know you're going to take time to promote it, and the results are going to take time. And those are things that businesses need to do to grow. But I take it back a step and go, well, if we know what your break-even point is, and we know if we benchmark what your break-even point is to other businesses, and you go, oh my goodness, I'm performing below average. I'm better than average. And say, well, I want to be in the top 25 percentile. So with the what if profit beat calculator system that I use with my clients, I can say, well, if you're performing at the top 75 percentile in your industry, you're leaving $100,000, $200,000 on the table.
Hmm.
So why do we want to go market a company that's not being efficient in its profitability? So, for example, quickly, just to cover it and don't want to get mired in the numbers, but I mean, $1 million company at a 25% gross profit, if we increase the sales 5%, if we reduce the cost of goods sold, you're by 5%, and if we reduce our fixed expenses, renegotiate our lease, our trucking, or whatever it is, do ask the hard questions of your friends who you likely bought the service from. Bob, am I really getting the best price? And all of a sudden, that $1 million company, those 3 5s, is $100,000. Actually, it's $97,000 to the bottom line. And you didn't have to do a marketing plan. But now you go, oh my God, I got $100,000. I got an efficient company. Now I'm ready to go to market. So marketing is important. But if you're not a startup and you're struggling for profit, marketing is not the first step. It's efficiency within the business. And you get immediate results. And that's why I say that, we can find you $10,000 or $20,000 in your business in 45 minutes or less. I hate to say it, it's not that hard to do. The only thing that's holding business owners back from doing it is actually implementing the changes we discussed. And that's where I stick my hand up. A good coach comes in, because we hold you accountable. And that's the difference between a coach and a consultant. A consultant can tell you what your problem is, go out the door, and if you close the cover on the book, when they go out the report, that's what I do. That's what I love to do.
I love the concept. I don't know if, I'm sure I heard it somewhere. And a consultant can give the information.
Yep.
But people resist change massively. At an unconscious level, your unconscious mind, 5/6 of your mind, literally starts to freak out.
Mm-hmm.
Change. Danger, danger, Will Robinson. You could die from that change, because that's its biggest fear, and that's its main agenda. So you got this huge part of your brain, literally 80+% of it that doesn't want change. And yet the thing is that information without implementation creates nothing. Information with implementation creates transformation. And if you want the result, what'd you say at the beginning, Paul? You said that people don't hire a coach. They want results. They buy results.
They buy the transformation.
Results don't happen unless they take action.
Yep.
Is that correct?
That's correct.
So I'm curious, when someone comes to you and says, look, Paul, I think I'm in your wheelhouse. I mean, if you would, in fact, maybe you could define who's your ideal client. What's the onboarding process in today's universe for you? How does somebody become
That's a great question in that, because I do, of course, mastermind groups and my business roundtable groups, and also the one-on-one coaching for. So, generally for the mastermind groups, and I didn't elaborate much on how they work, but if I could take it back to that, and then I'll get into the one-on-one piece, is that we see transformation in our mastermind groups because of the collective problem solving for your business. But the biggest part of it is, and I just mentioned it in coach and consultant, a coach holds you accountable to ensure you're implementing the changes. In a mastermind group, a good facilitator will help the group hold the member accountable to the change. And we see huge transformations in those masterminds, and the members don't even have to show their financial statement. They become more profitable because they become more efficient and they get rid of their problems. So it's generally the mastermind person is between three employees to 30, 40 employees is kind of the sweet spot. Business has to have some moving parts. They need to, they're there because they want to be better. They're not there because they're going to be out of business next week. So it's a mindset, and that's part of what I want. Because you're in a room with like-minded people who want to become better. How fun is that to work with people like that?
I love the mastermind concept. I got a quick question. Do you have any geographical restrictions on you forming mastermind groups?
Well, in Eastern Canada, for me, I have Nova Scotia and Prince Edward Island. From a Canadian perspective with Business Roundtable, my partners with another business I'm involved with, CPA Business Coach, we will be unrolling masterminds for 1 to 3 partner accounting firms who are non-competitive, because part of what works with masterminds is there can't be any competition at the table. So we'll be rolling that out next month across the United States for small accounting firms and accountancies, CPAs. For my one-on-one coaching clients, you've got to be at that 300 to 400,000 in sales volume level, up to 5 or 6 million, whereby there's enough moving parts that when we institute the 5-5-5, or even if it's a 2.5, 2.5, 2.5, little incremental changes, that we can go in and get quick results for the client, and then we fine tune to take them from becoming average when we benchmark to getting them to excel against the competition.
Absolutely.
To me, that ideal. So that's finance driven, but also I get to flex my professional accreditation and being a certified professional coach, that I'm dealing with the human and I'm dealing with the business, and bring the two of them together. And so all 3 of those offerings that I have are all very rewarding, because we're just helping people succeed. They want it. They don't know what they're grasping.
Right. And just a kind of quick reference for clarification, if somebody came in late, the 5-5-5 is 5%
increase in sales.
Increase in sales.
Top line at 5%. The 5% increase in, let's say I referenced to 25% gross profit business, doesn't mean you move it to 30%. You actually move it to 26.2%. It's a 5% increase of where you were. And if you had, 300,000 in fixed expenses, rent, vehicles, those types of things, well, 5% of that is 15,000. So it's 5% of the actual number, not 5% of the gross sales number in that case. And then if you really, really want to have exponential changes, Patrick, and something you know quite well in your expertise, if you add the 4th 5 in there, which is, how do I get my existing customers to buy 5% more from me? Then the lid comes off it. You've got a wild, busted Bronco that's you're just having fun riding, and all we got to do now is tame it.
Well, and what's fun is to actually see the numbers. Like if somebody wanted to connect to you, what's the process? Because I would hope, and I bet you do, you literally walk them through the beat. for their business to show them what would have just a few changes. Am I correct in that?
That's correct. And we talked about, to revisit the beat that you brought up, when I use the what if calculator, where we actually load in, a prospective client's numbers. And I don't need a lot. I just need your gross, your fixed, and your variable, and put them in there. And all of a sudden, without even having the financial statement, I can look at them and go, your gross profit is probably around this, or your net profit. How'd you know that? Well, it's right here. It's not rocket science. And so when we do that, then they go, oh my goodness. And then when I plug it in to the beep calculator, once we know the break-even point, every dollar that we increase sales price, the sale price, or every expense that we reduce goes directly to net profit. And my favorite sayings from one of my mentors, Frank Mamullo, who I took a finance course from a few years ago. And there is a difference between, business accounting and business finance. Believe me, a big difference. But what Frank, I love him for what he says, is that revenue feeds your ego and profit feeds your family.
Excellent. Love that. So how do people get a hold of you?
The best way to get a hold of me, it's real easy. I was lucky enough to obtain my own URL years ago. So I'm the guy with two first names, PaulRoy.ca. PaulRoy.ca.
Remember that it's PaulRoy.ca, not .com.
.ca.
PaulRoy.ca for Canada, and
if you Google, you Google Paul Roy. If you go PaulRoy.ca, it'll bring you to my business coaching site, and from there you can branch out to my mastermind group site and my CPA business coach sites, which I'm involved with two partners in the U.S.
Well, the website shows Business Coach Atlantic. I'll hold it up there, and really encourage you folks to get a hold of Paul. I've been working with him for a little while now, in some just different sharing ideas, and found him to be one completely solid and has a great deal of wisdom that I find refreshing. Quite honestly, you're not somebody who just hangs a shingle and says, I am a business coach. No, you actually have solid proof behind you of massive results, and you're consistently helping your clients generate consistent growing results, so different options, whether it's mastermind or coaching or whatever, all of those things, I'm engaged in, and I love it when I see others that are doing it successfully. So I encourage you to get a hold of PaulRoy.ca, PaulRoy at his website, and just enjoy the ride. If nothing else, you'll see the beep, and what the beep. No, I mean, seriously, you need to know what your beep is, because if you don't know your break-even point, you don't even know what can adjust. You might be following, as a lot of people do, they follow the income of the company, but they're not tracking any of the other numbers. They just figure, fill the hopper, it's all good. It'll work out in the end. And I go, it's good to have a little guidance on that, and some accountability, whether it's personal or group, because I do know the power of a mastermind group. I've seen them before. I use them. I'm forming them now, and I love the concept. And I think, here's the thing. I've had situations where somebody literally stayed up like almost all night the night before a mastermind group, just because they didn't want to let the other guys down. They got their stuff done that they committed to, because they didn't. I mean, the power of that, folks, is amazing. I was just gonna say, well, thank you so much for being on the show today, and I would say, any parting words for the listeners?
I want to say thank you, and if I can close it out, when I was, this would be about 7 years ago, And I was a big Jack Canfield fan, the success principles. That was my Bible. And there was 54 chapters with all these things you needed to do. And of course, you do the chapters that you like first. They're easy. And then I had one chapter left, and it was my purpose. Why do you do what you do? And I didn't know, because for years I chased money. And I said, no, that the money doesn't give me the gratitude. The money comes as a result of what I do. And it took me a couple of months to get there. And when I met Jack Canfield in person, I cried. We had a little sidebar, he was signing books. And I brought my old tattered copy and I said, I'm sorry, Jack, I'm not buying the new one. I need you to sign this one. And he pulled me aside and we had a great chat. But it was, and it led me to write a book called It Happened on Purpose. It's a book of my business journey. And if I could close with this, I would be appreciated. And my personal purpose is to be a role model of giving, love, wisdom, credibility, and learning that'll inspire my family, my friends, my clients, and associates. And if we live by that, thank you, sir.
Changes everything. And so, Paul, thank you so much. I know that when people find their purpose and their passion and their profession, it can line them up, which I know you can help them do that.
Yeah.
It's so radical in their life. Folks, this is Strength-Based Marketing. I'm Pat Dewar, and we'll see you next time.
Okay. Thank you ever so much.